You've got, all right. So thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Ashley, for the opportunity to share with you today. Um, Personal growth is something that I got hooked on, and I hope to share with you what I've learned and just share this growth journey together, because we're all learning, we're all growing. A little bit about me: I've worked my own business with Monate. As many of you, I think, have online businesses. I've learned entrepreneurialisms from my parents. My mom owned a ladies' wear dress shop. So I grew up in business and that entrepreneurial mindset, and taught me a lot about business, taught me a lot about working for myself, and how much I love that. And, being the boss, right? Making those decisions and flexibilities for what you need to do. So I grew up in business, discovered many leadership books, including John Maxwell books, on my mom's shelf as I was going through her estate. I'm originally from Alberta, Canada, and November, we decided to take this trek across to Florida. My family came with me. I have a 17-year-old, 21-year-old, 26-year-old. Their employment and their school also established here. So it's been an amazing change and huge change of life that I couldn't have imagined or thought of how it would be. It's just really neat to see this unfold. So like you, I work my businesses online. Monate, my coaching and training, is online right here. And together with my husband, we started a business here in Florida in air and water purification. So helping people trust the air they breathe and the water that they use. So we have put our dreams to the test, really, truly, right in the pinnacle of it. And today I want to share with you too, through these trainings, no matter what challenge you face, no matter what adversity comes our way, and we've all been living in extra challenges for the last couple of years, and ongoing challenges and changes and how our world is changing, you can follow your dreams too. No matter what adversity, no matter what challenge, what obstacle, that mountain seems too big, you can get over it. And some of these things are self-sabotage, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Self-sabotage. We do these things to ourselves, these things that keep us stuck. And sometimes they're just patterns that we're so used to that we don't even recognize. Oh, I don't have to think that way. I don't have to react or respond that way, or to even recognize that some of these things are happening. So I do have ongoing mastermind courses. Right now, I'm offering Change Your World. This is such a fantastic course. I want to share it with you. If I can change my screen here, I'm going to share a video from John Maxwell himself, and you'll get to hear him talk about Change Your World. And who's heard John Maxwell talk before? Anybody heard him at one of your conventions or listened to any of his podcasts or videos before? So inspiring, and such a man of great wisdom. The book Change Your World is starting with us, of course, and changing the things that are inside of us, and watching how that changes, whether that's your community, whether it's your kids' schools, a few short videos, whether that's your business, whatever environment you're in, even your family, you can be that positive change. And it's done through values. So I'm going to jump right in to let you hear a little bit from John Maxwell on his heart behind.
I truly believe that we have a
oops, here we go.
Major values deficit in our world. And I believe that it begins with leadership. I don't think we have a legal problem. I think the laws are very, very important, so I don't want to minimize it. But I think that people that lack values can get around law. I think we have a heart issue. And the thing that excites me the most about this book is it goes to the core of the heart, and it goes to values. And I'm very excited because we really have potential for a movement here, and to create a movement that is so desperately needed. And it's a grassroots movement that gives hope, of which the book is full of, but it gives help from its practice. And so anyway, as Mark kind of leads us through this time, this is just not a book I wrote. This is me. This is what I know. This is what I love. This is what I believe. I would die for this easily. It's not even a dilemma. I would give everything up in my life to see transformation of hearts and people. But it has to have a runway. This book is part of that runway. I'm very patient. I'm very patient on waiting when I know that the runway is taking me to where I want to go. And this has taken us to where we want to go. Trust me, this has taken us to where we want to go. And
gets my tears going too. So anyway, I want to invite you to change your world. It's a 5-week mastermind class that I'm going to be offering. But what I want to tell you about is after you're done the 5-week mastermind on goosebumps, after you're done the 5-week mastermind, going through the values. And like he said, our world is in a value deficit. These are concepts that we kind of take for granted. A lot of us, myself included, take for granted. And when you discuss them together every week, it reopens your awareness and how you can be part of changing your world. And at a time when my own family had challenges and I needed change in my own circumstances. And I was going through this book through a mastermind class that I was participating in. And this is why I want to express to you how powerful it is. I looked at my own situation and realized, you know what, if I want my circumstance to change, and we've heard this before, but really, truly to put it into practice, I can do it. I can do it by being that change. So I can change my world by changing some of these concepts that are taught in the book, topics on forgiveness, topics on valuing other people, topics on really listening. And in our media world, how hard is that today? Truly listening to people and just watching what that will affect. So by doing the 5-week class, what I want to offer you is right after that, I'm going to follow up with a free 6-week transformation table class that you can bring your friends to, your support system, your team members to, and use it as a business growth tool. So jump in, 5 weeks. I'll send some information out on that 5-week class. It's $50 for the 5 weeks. So it's just $10 a class. And then you can bring your friends to the follow-up class after that. So just a little update for you on figure out if I can find the buttons all over again here. Just a little bit update for you on the next class that I'll be offering. All right, so John Maxwell's always good. His trainings, over 80 books, just amazing. And because you're here part of Trading Secrets, we're here together, learning and growing together. And again, you'll have access to some of these courses through John Maxwell. So today's breaking up with self-sabotage. We've had the art of affirmations, rewriting your story, lots of great topics. I invite you to email me, message me if there's topics that you want to develop and grow in. And I just want to suggest some ideas for me, things that you've learned even from classes that we have done. I would love to have some feedback from you. As I mentioned, John Maxwell talked about the 15 invaluable laws of growth in that early Saturday morning, April 30th, the law of pain, the law of the rubber band. So every one of us goes through times of pain, but it's the management of that pain that's going to help us through it to see positive growth out of it. Good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. These are great opportunities. It's hard. Anybody been in painful situations before? Times that just don't feel good. You wish you could just go back to bed, those times. Those are times that we are put to the test and we can come out the other side with amazing growth and amazing understanding and tools in our tool belt. The law of the rubber band teaches us that those times of stretching are good for us. Growing to our full potential requires stretching out of your comfort zone. So it's another mastermind class I will put on as well in the future. So watch for that. But I want to take a moment to congratulate every one of you for taking the first step towards letting go of self-sabotage, letting go of those destructive behaviors and moving today towards that happier, more fulfilling life. So during our time together, we're going to be exploring what is self-sabotage? Why do we partake in it? And sometimes we don't recognize that we even are, like I mentioned, but then how to fight back against those destructive behaviors, those thoughts that we have ingrained in us, and it just automatically goes there, and they've formed, these habits have formed. We can change those and we can create healthy habits. So behavior is said to be self-sabotaging when it creates problems and when it interferes with long-standing goals. So the most common self-sabotaging behaviors are, can you guess? Procrastination. Anybody guilty of procrastination? You know those things that you should do, but for some reason we put it off. There's something that blocks us there. And sometimes that's fear. Sometimes that's, we've had a bad experience with that before, and so we just want to step back and avoid it. There's lots of reasons for procrastination, but procrastination is one of those self-sabotaging behaviors. Maybe it's self-medication. Maybe that is drugs or alcohol, comfort eating, and maybe it's interpersonal conflict. Now, these acts sometimes can seem comforting. Sometimes they can seem useful at the moment, but ultimately they undermine us. They keep us stuck. They hold us back, especially when we engage in them repeatedly. A little indulgence every once in a while is okay, but when we continually turn to that chocolate, that piece of cake, whatever it is, those things end up self-sabotaging us, and they become those bombs in our life. Like somebody said the word to me yesterday, that looks so great on the menu, but that's really that diet bomb. If you want to have it once in a while, is okay. But it's when we turn to these things regularly, it becomes a behavior. So even if we're aware of our self-sabotaging behaviors, there's no guarantee that it in itself will be enough to actually disengage from that act. So still, it's possible. It's possible to overcome almost any form of self-sabotage. And we know that people have done it. So now here's the test. What are you willing to change for you? First of all, are you self-sabotaging? Can you relate to any of the following examples? Maybe you tend to focus on what's not working. You focus on the problem more than the solution. And we talk about it and we regurgitate that problem over and over and over, when really we should be talking about the solution as opposed to what it is. We tend to maybe fear the future. We worry a lot about the what if, and we make these lists of all of these things that could go wrong, focusing on what's possible to go wrong, the what ifs and what might happen down the road. Or maybe value is a hot spot for you. Maybe that's a heart spot for you. Maybe you feel like your value is challenged or it's minimized. Maybe you feel like you have no value and you find it challenging to recall accomplishments. This is a very heartfelt topic for me because my brother died a few years back, and I remember speaking with his doctor after he had passed away, several months afterwards. And the one thing that always I go back and it's something that motivates me a lot today is the topic of value, because his doctor made a comment about my brother's inability to recognize his value. And when a person has lost their value, it's hard to fight for life at that point. And that was something that struck me so hard. And it's part of what motivated me to be here in these situations today, is to help others to recognize their value, every one of you to recognize your value. And sometimes these thoughts get planted in our heads and our hearts, and we feel like we don't have value. We, instead of looking at our accomplishments, we look at the things that we've failed at. We criticize ourselves often, and we maybe can't accept compliments. We compare ourselves to others all the time. We look at everything that everybody else is doing, and then we feel bad for not measuring up. Maybe you chase away relationships. Maybe you're in a relationship and you quickly find flaws and faults in that person, and you feel like you have no purpose in life. Maybe that's been minimized for you. For some of us, these behaviors are all too familiar, and for others, they might seem to be a bit of a reach. So we're going to talk about specific actions and the symptoms that might show up for self-sabotage that lurk a bit further below the surface. So what are these symptoms? Under this umbrella of self-sabotage is actually self-destruction. So we don't think that we actually do this to ourselves. Self-sabotage kind of seems like a friendlier term than when we start saying that this is self-destruction. Really? I thought I was doing self-care, but actually there's a little more underneath the surface. Self-destructive symptoms can arise all the time and are signs that we are trying to self-sabotage. Let me give you a few examples. So remember, we talked about procrastination. Lots of reasons for procrastination, but we fail to take action on something. That's a form of self-destruction, because if we took that action, what could it do towards progressing ourselves in our business and our personal growth in our relationships? So we fail to take action. Maybe we have a negative or a pessimistic or self-defeating mindset. For example, we say to ourselves, it's not going to work out. I'm going to fail. I just know it. This is, I don't know why I bother with these things. Any of these thoughts or phrases familiar to you? Maybe self-destruction is in the form of overeating. Maybe it's in undereating. Maybe it's forced incompetence, portraying yourself as unintelligent. I'm not that smart. I could never handle that. Oh, I don't have the patience for that. Or I'm incapable of that. That's not for me. How many of these things do we say regularly? They just easily come out of our mouths. Or have we heard other friends, maybe other men, other women speaking these things regularly? Words are so powerful. And as women, we are actually more likely to do this than men are. We undermine ourselves just by the words that we speak. Maybe we've seen it in the form of bullying. Some people are actually out to do harm to others. We've experienced that, or it's self-harm, or it's self-pity. Maybe there's abuse with alcohol or drugs. Maybe it's deliberately alienating yourself from others because we have this thought running in our head that, well, they wouldn't want to spend time with me anyway. Refusing help, spending too much money. Maybe it's physical neglect, not taking care of yourself, because moms are bad at this. As women, we always put others first, right? And we don't take care of ourselves. So maybe that means getting poor sleep or refusing to exercise. Maybe it's eating unhealthy foods or not maintaining basic hygiene or taking care of ourselves. That's self-care. We don't put ourselves in that place of importance, and we put ourselves at the end, and it turns into a form of actual neglect. Or maybe it's mental neglect, refusing or avoiding or failing to confront psychological health issues. Is there anxiety, or is there a depression, or is there OCD? Some of these things that we should really be addressing to take care of ourselves. Now, we all go through ups and downs, right? We all have those times. But if you find yourself returning to patterns, this is where you want to be watchful for. Patterns of binging on something, like I said, overeating or undereating, self-harm, physical neglect, any of these kind of things that you see or you've seen in somebody else. Little warning light there for you. Maybe we find comfort in some of these forms of self-sabotage. This is where it becomes self-destruction. So, do we feel a lack of self-worth? Like I mentioned there, there's a few main reasons that we participate in these self-sabotaging behaviors. We don't really think about it. Sometimes we're just so busy, we just don't think that we're actually doing this to ourselves. But then when we take an inventory and we think where our thoughts have been, we can recognize it a little bit easier. Perhaps the most all-encompassing, though, is that feeling of that lack of self-worth. Now, there's a million little factors that can contribute to our feelings of unworthiness, and it would take many times here to go over all of them, but that concept of cognitive dissonance, if you've heard of that phrase before, cognitive dissonance can help us understand more cumulatively for this topic. So cognitive dissonance refers to that tendency that we have to seek consistency amongst our beliefs, kind of like that comfort zone. Our brain has a comfort zone. Every time something doesn't make sense, like let's say we're hurt by something or we're surprised by an action and taken off guard, we feel discomfort. Our brain doesn't like that. Our brain compensates then by actually creating a new reality to eliminate that dissonance. It's going for comfort. It's trying to find that comfort zone. How does this play out? In terms of self-sabotaging behavior, let me share an example with you. So let's say there's somebody that you don't like at work. There's somebody that you have to spend time with regularly and you kind of rub shoulders the wrong way. But one day, they reach out to you and they're going to head out and they're going to get a coffee. And they ask you if they can grab one for you too, their treat. Well, after experiencing this exchange of words, now you have two options moving forward. How are you going to respond? Number one, you change your opinion of them. Well, maybe they're actually kind of cool. Maybe I do like them. Or two, you justify your previous opinion of them and you think they must be after something. What's going on here? And you doubt their true motives and you distrust that this would be a good idea. There's going to be another underlying agenda here. So which one are you going to accept as your thought pattern? Once you land on one of these options, your brain is going to stick to it. Remember, it's looking for that comfort zone. Your belief is either altered or it's strengthened based on what's just occurred. So this is where we really need to watch our thoughts. Take every thought captive, because sometimes our brain is going to want to self-sabotage us too. Simply because our brains don't like cognitive dissonance. Processing new information makes our brains work harder. And it throws a wrench in those inner workings of everything that it's always believed or thought, these patterns that have been established. So therefore, our first instinct is going to come to a conclusion and it's going to move on. It's just going to find that common ground. It's easier there, right? Excuse me, even if it means making a judgment that is not factually correct. Maybe they truly and honestly just wanted to make things right, offer something kind, and go get you a coffee. What are you going to think up here? Here's how cognitive dissonance and self-sabotage might play out in another relationship. So let's say that there's a romantic relationship and this person was lied to, causing their brain to form the notion that romantic relationships are connected with hurt and distrust. So as this person progresses forward through life and partakes in various relationships, they might never have truly gotten over that initial mistrust. And even if this person has never given any reason not to trust them, their brain is going to go back to thinking, I trusted people once and look where that got me, hurt. I'm not falling for this again. So like in the previous example, our brain keeps selecting option 2. I don't trust it. So our brain likes it when we fall back into previous patterns because it's less work, right? It's less work to think of something brand new and then apply that new knowledge to all of our memories and beliefs. And so it's just easier. It's just simply easier to fall back into old ideas and old prejudices. This is where we really have to work hard and have these regular, planned, intentional ways to personally grow, to watch our thoughts, it's kind of like a health routine. You've got to drink that water. You've got to have these certain foods or supplements, whatever your health routine is. It's kind of like that for our brain. What we feed it regularly is going to create these patterns. So if we want to undo something, we have to get it back on a healthy track, right? We like the control, and it feels better to accept sometimes our own failures because of that commonality, that common ground. rather than facing the possibility of failure taking you by surprise. So our brains are going to want to find what's easy. At least when you're steering the ship, you know where it's going, right? Even if that means driving it into an iceberg of self-sabotage, we will do that because that's just the pattern that we've always done. And then there's imposter syndrome. So the higher up you rise, the further you have to fall, right? The fear of ultimately failing. Anybody been there? Anybody can relate to the fear of failure? It's another reason that we partake in self-sabotage. Our psyche is rooted in the perception that you're not deserving of the success you've gained so far. And so in return, you might partake in self-sabotaging behaviors like doing the bare minimum, procrastinating, there it is again, or diverting your attention in order to avoid this fear. Anybody seen that done in your business before, where you know that you should do this thing, whether that's your chicken list, right? Reaching out to the person that you fear the most, but you go find something else to do instead because you're fearing what's on the other side of that. So we might be productive in something else, maybe justifiable, but we'll always put that one thing off because we're afraid. And this is imposter syndrome. We have that fear. And so we partake instead of self-sabotage. Oops. And we find comfort in pain, or we're bored. So other reasons that we might turn to self-sabotaging behaviors are due to familiarity or boredom. We're creatures of habit, but sometimes this means that we choose consistency over our own happiness or contentment. If we're used to being or feeling overlooked, if we're used to being mistreated, we're used to being exploited, it can be strangely reassuring to put ourselves right back there again. So even though we know that these roles make us happy, I've heard stories of this recently where there's exploitation of girls in particular, and that they always go back to that because in a very sad way, that has become their norm, that has become their comfort zone. So we know that these roles make us unhappy, but we prefer them because there's a comfort there. So how does that fall into place for you? What are you finding comfort in, even though you know that it's self-sabotaging you? It's taking away from you rather than adding to your life. And sometimes we know these drama queens, we've seen them too. We've seen drama created because of boredom. Sometimes it can give that rush, that initial excitement of this drama that's been created, this chaos that is now here, because that's much better than just being bored. The good news is that self-sabotage in these times follows a predictable pattern. So this is where we can step in to find change, to change it. So we can pinpoint our pattern. Self-sabotage follows a predictable pattern. Awareness now of how it shows up. Maybe you've seen sometimes as I've been talking here that it's stirred up some thoughts in you, and you can see your own patterns. Awareness is the first step, and you're going to recognize these things when they show up again. So now that you have that awareness, you can take an action to nip it in the bud as soon as it shows up again. So the first step in this is to think back to previous times that you've self-sabotaged in your life. When has that been? When has it been that you wanted to do something to progress in your business, something to progress in your personal life and relationships, and something has gotten in the way and you've taken a step back? And figure out what point you typically began to step back or indulge in these self-sabotaging behaviors and uncover your triggers. So for example, let's say that there's a girl that's had a crush on a guy that's working at the local coffee shop. For months, they've had chats back and forth as she goes in to get her latte. And one day he asks her on a date, but instead of accepting it, she freezes. She comes up with an excuse to get out of it. Now, what happened? Why would she do that? Somewhere in that exchange, she was triggered. Perhaps as soon as her romantic interest began showing interest back, her brain didn't understand how to comprehend that new information. Remember, it likes comfort zones. So if our reality shows up, this new reality shows up and it dictates that, well, you're not worthy of love. Those thoughts that come in. but suddenly you receive information that contradicts that reality, your brain sends signals to fight against that cognitive dissonance. This is something new. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good, right? Or discomfort of the new and unknown brings you back to familiar thoughts and patterns. It's easier to stay inside of our comfort zone, even in situations like this. So perhaps that means that you detach, you become uninterested and suddenly afraid, knowing that your relationship is moving forward and could ultimately fail. So there's all sorts of extra uncomfortable thoughts showing up here that can cause us to go back into our comfort zone. So even in our businesses, think about how effective it is if we intentionally step out of our comfort zone. What's that going to do for you? Even if it's a little thing that you make sure you're going to do every single day to grow, get out of your comfort zone, you're teaching your brain to learn that stepping out of your comfort zone can be okay. It doesn't have to be a scary place, especially if you're doing it regularly. You're training your brain into new things and training your brain to try these out of comfort zone experiences. Think of self-sabotage as a misdirected form of self-love. So your brain is moving you towards self-sabotaging behaviors because it thinks that it's actually protecting you from hurt. It's protecting you from danger, right? You don't know what's on the outside of that comfort zone. You better step back. But when in reality, it's also holding you back from everything that's out there, all of your full potential, every dream, every aspiration, every goal is out there, but your brain wants to keep you back here. So you're only going to be able to see it, but you're never going to step past it because our brain says, hey, stay back. Fear is an emotion most of us prefer to sweep under the rug instead of working to confront head on. Are you with me? So one step that you can take to face those inner fears, whatever they are, head on, grab your journal, write it down. Next time you realize that you might be partaking, you start recognizing it now that we've talked about it. This could be self-sabotaging behavior. I could be self-destructing myself here. I'm procrastinating here. I'm delaying this. Why am I doing that? Maybe I'm picking a fight with somebody. I don't even know why I'm doing it. Take a moment and ask yourself, and write it down on your paper with you today so you can transfer it into that journal. What am I scared of? Why is that scary? Work through those emotions and then ask yourself, well, if that is the worst case scenario, if that worst case scenario actually happened, that thing that you fear the most, could I handle it? Maybe I could. Actually, I think I could. Actually, I know how to handle it. You work your way through. How would you handle if that worst case scenario happened? And then ask yourself this question. Does this fear outweigh my desires? Because ultimately, you're going to choose one or the other, right? You're going to choose your fear, or you're going to choose to move past it. Does this fear, is this bigger than my why? Is this fear more important for me to hang on to and stay here than taking the first step towards my goal, my why, my desires? Do you see where I'm going with this? You're going to choose one or the other. And if your brain is constantly holding you back like this, then we need to learn ways to get you past it and to recognize, first of all, those behaviors, those self-sabotaging behaviors. So grab that journal and start to dissect some of these things. Write them down. At the end of the day, write it down. What worked today? What didn't work? What was I afraid of today? Was there something that I could have stepped forward into that I was afraid to step into? Was there a self-sabotaging behavior? And start to journal it so you can recognize your own patterns and then become aware of it. And once you've taken these steps and taken the time to consider that situation head on, you know what's going to happen? That fear inside you is going to lose its power. A little bit at a time, it's going to lose its power over your thoughts, and you're going to replace those thoughts with something else, like your why, your goals, that you can do this, you will do this, I know how to do this. Repeat this activity as needed every single day in order to train your brain to ease out of those old thought patterns. Slowly, you're rewriting this for yourself. Confronting those fears means facing discomfort. I don't know if anybody likes feeling uncomfortable here, but sometimes the truth that we uncover cannot be so pretty, right? So let's take a look at a case study. This lady named Olga, she was always in fear of losing her partner, Jack. She always was afraid of that. She told him all the time that she loved him, that she never wanted him to leave her. But at the same time, she kept picking fights. Why would she do that? She kept forgetting to keep her promises to him. Why would she do that? Like picking him up from work, for example, she'd keep sabotaging in those situations. So in order to get to the bottom of this really bizarre and seemingly contradictory behavior, Olga was prompted to contemplate the worst case scenario. Jack leaving was the worst case in her mind. And she had never thought about this before because she was afraid to let her mind actually think it through, like the journaling exercise I'm telling you about. And she was asked, what will you do if he leaves? What would happen? And here's her response. Well, I'd have to learn to live for myself, I guess. I'd have to be independent. I'd be free. Well, that fear that she'd been hiding wasn't that Jack secretly wanted to leave her. It was that, and hear me through this, she actually wanted to leave Jack. So once Olga came to this realization and took the time to process her thoughts, instead of falling back on old habitual fears, she realized something new, that her definition of a perfect wife in her mind meant someone who acted as an appendage to her husband, a role that she didn't want to play. See, she went deeper subconsciously because she didn't want to fulfill that role. An appendage. She didn't want to fulfill that role. She began doing things to self-sabotage, to sabotage her marriage, thus leading to the fear of its end. So you see where some of these thoughts can become that comfort zone and show up kind of in odd places. So once she realized that the root of her fears, what those roots were and how they played themselves out in her actions toward her husband, now she was able to move past those stereotypes of marriage and recognize that her role as a wife didn't have to match up with the ideas that she'd always thought in her mind. Somewhere that idea, that thought was planted in her mind. She was now free to forge her own course in this relationship. And she didn't need to self-sabotage or to sabotage her relationship anymore. Now she can work towards that healthy relationship, recognizing why she was doing these things in their relationship. So recommit today to new healthy goals every day. So in that journal, setting small goals will make you feel more accomplished. Remember, we talked about this before. What's your win today? Share it with us here. If you have a win today, even, what is that win? Focus on these wins. Teach this to your team members. What is your win? And helping your team members to get even a small win every day, like we teach our kids when they're little, right? And you clap at every single little thing that they do. Those little wins build confidence in them. So when we set small goals, and we achieve those small goals, it's going to create this new pattern, this new momentum, this accomplishment in yourself, where you're going to see and take more control of your own life. And it's really helpful. It's particularly helpful way to combat self-sabotaging action. So undoing those things that you don't want and recreating new things, because it fights those feelings of low self-worth when, hey, I've got a win, right? And you focus on the wins. I have a friend who's done this for me, and I can focus on this went wrong and this went wrong and this went wrong. We've done this, right? And we have this list of things that went wrong, and then my friend did. This is where accountability partner comes in really handy. She turned it around and she says, yeah, but this went right and this went right and this went right and this went right. Who needs a friend like that, right? So we can do this for ourselves too by having that journal and writing down those things that we win at, and that we do accomplish, and we can help to motivate ourselves with in a positive direction, undoing all those negative ones that our brain likes to help us stay stuck with, right? So don't be afraid to make lists. Perhaps take a moment to pick out a planner to write down your notes, write down your thoughts. Start with small obligations, maybe things that you do every day that you take for granted. Maybe it's even just doing the laundry. You got your grocery shopping done. You picked up the dog food. Yay, yay, yay. Start with small wins in every situation. Add in your business accomplishments. What is one win? So you can start to make this list of wins. And then crossing something off of your to-do list. Anybody with me here? Anybody like crossing off those things that you get accomplished? That to-do list in its own weird little way is another way to create that win for yourself. So don't fall into that mental trap of harmful assumptions. Stop assuming things. Our mind sometimes can really play havoc on us, and it's easy to get spiraling out of control. Anybody been there before? It's natural to try to analyze and assess people and situations and to make sense of our surroundings. And sometimes our thoughts go down these bunny trails of negativity. The danger lies in allowing your imagination to wander too far off. Anybody been there? You thought about these times before when somebody ghosts you, somebody doesn't respond back to you, and you start thinking the worst, what did I say? What did I do? And then it turns into some thoughts that are possibly really ugly about this person or this relationship or this situation that really aren't true at all. And maybe this person just really got busy, or maybe they were having a bad day, but we take it on ourselves and we assume that it had to do with us when really it doesn't have anything to do with us. So that's a dangerous place. So be really careful with your thoughts. That danger lies in allowing that imagination to wander too far, leading to that worst case scenario, which causes anxiety, which causes frustration, which causes fear. And then you get stuck in that place when you could be focusing on all the other positive accomplishments that you need to be focusing on. Who's been stuck there before? So do less, better. Keep your day simple and meaningful. That sense of overwhelm, we can all get ourselves there. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed with things that aren't a priority. Keep your priorities your priority, the most important things, and don't waste your time on things that don't really matter. They can be energy drainers, right? Learning how to say no and start getting used to delegating duties to people around you. Sometimes we like to take everything on because we know it's going to be done the right way, right? But if we delegate, we teach, we can pass it on, we can duplicate ourselves. We all want to duplicate ourselves, right? Take time for you to enjoy the things that you enjoy. How many of us forget to do that? Maybe it is cooking. Maybe you love cooking and life has just been so rushed that you haven't been able to really enjoy cooking. Make sure to set some time aside to do that. Maybe it's just once a week. Maybe it's spending time with your animals and going outside in nature and taking a walk. Carve out that hour. It's important to do that for your animal, for your dog. Anybody got a dog? Carve out that time for you and for them. Or maybe it's to go for coffee with that friend and you always put it off. I'll take time for that. Who is that person today that you've always wanted to give them a call, just to even do that, to go out for lunch with, doing things that you're passionate about, the things that really mean something to you is going to help keep your stress levels down and allow you to focus more on your own goals and motivations. And then getting that accountability partner, like we talked about. Surround yourself with people who are also doing their best to fight against these habits of self-sabotage. That's why you're here today. Grab that accountability partner, be focused on the activities and trading secrets. Join into my mastermind. So every week you can be held accountable and keeping yourself from slipping into those places. So this is where I really encourage you. Invite a friend. Come join in the Change Your World Masterclass. Imagine helping someone else change their world too. You can do it together. You can support each other, encourage each other, meet each other each week. In 5 weeks, imagine what will change in your own world and what could change for them as well. Life will bring you pain all by itself. Your responsibility is to create joy. There will always be times when we realize we need to let go of something painful. It's a toxic relationship, maybe. However, it's never easy to let go of something that we've become accustomed to. So we get stuck in the middle of two realities, where we are and where we want to be. Again, we can change our world. Fear of the unknown can hold us back, but we can choose not to let it. One way to solve this problem, again, that act of self-love, accepting more moments in your life that bring you joy, more love into your life. It can be difficult if you feel like you're unworthy of love. This is where that journal is going to come into play. What thoughts are leading you to that place? Remember that if you're always putting yourself into destructing, self-sabotaging situations, you aren't allowing yourself to expand your worth and reach your full potential. Make a list of those wins. Put yourself into places where you are passionate about and your whole person comes to life. But since we can't control the love that we receive from other people, the best place to start is our own love, our self-love. Here's a few ways that you can practice. Again, cook your favorite meal for yourself and don't worry about the calories. Buy yourself some flowers. Sing loudly your favorite song. Maybe that's just belting out that. I saw that the other day. There was a guy singing Frank Sinatra, window wide open, and oh, he was enjoying it. I enjoyed watching him. Treat yourself to a concert, a play, art museum, or a musical performance. Do these things for yourself. Join a walking group or sign up for a class. Take a hike. Write down in that journal some of your favorite things. Just brainstorm some of your favorite things, and then make sure you go back to that page that you are doing that for yourself. And then praise yourself. This is that wins, that list of wins, right? Rather than waiting for others to do it for you, make a list of wins in that journal. So you can go back on those days when you're feeling, that self-sabotage, you're feeling that failure speaking to you louder. You can turn to that page and you can, oh yeah, because we forget the wins that we did, those things that we accomplished. So when you do something you're proud of, dwell on it a little, relish in that experience, pat yourself on the back. It's okay. It's not narcissistic to do that. It's an act of self-care, recognizing you are valuable. What you bring into the world is valuable. And if you confronted somebody and asked them for that maybe it's your boss and you're asking them for that promotion and you get it, give yourself props, even just to ask for that itself. Guts. So being aware of your accomplishments and boosting your mood will make you more self-sufficient. So if we're waiting on people around us to congratulate us on our self-worth and our self-esteem, we've actually given away a key to our own happiness. Keep it. We've given away that key to our own happiness because the thoughts, opinions, and beliefs of others are actually outside of our own control. So don't give away that key. Don't give away that power to somebody else to own that for you. And then listen to your body as we wrap up here. One of the best ways that we can practice self-care and break up with self-sabotage is to take care of you. If you're constantly tired, look at what your sleeping patterns are. If you're feeling burnt out, pass on that Red Bull that the office supplies you with. Cut out the caffeine after 3 o'clock. Look at the reasons. How are you taking care of your body? If you find that you're overweight, well, maybe you need that accountability partner again. Get out walking or looking at what your diet is, your physical activity. Maybe there's chronic pain and you need to go to somewhere to get some help like acupuncture or chiropractor. Sometimes we ignore our aches and pains so long and not putting ourselves first that it creates a thought in our own selves of unworthiness. So make yourself important, focusing on the positives, that positive self-talk. Let's put it in the comments here. What are some positive self-talk that you need to hear? Something that you need to remember to say to yourself that boosts yourself, that you're capable, right? That you're valuable, that you can trust your intuition, that you're worthy of love, that you know what you are capable of. You know that you have a beautiful family and you're good at what you do and you have a successful business. These are words that we need to be speaking over ourselves. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And I am worth it there. Thank you. Yes, keep putting that in. These are words that we need to hear. We need to encourage. We need to speak out. Think next of those failures as new opportunities. Okay, so when there's a failure that comes along, it's actually something positive, because sometimes hidden inside of those failures are wonderful new opportunities. Things that can seem negative at the onset can actually lead to something really awesome. So making sure we're watching our thoughts, focusing on the positive, avoiding negative people. If you have a surroundings of negative people, minimize your time there. Look at the big picture. Maybe you get a parking ticket for something. That really sucks. That's a bummer. But will it matter next week? Will it matter next month, a year? Try not to waste your precious mental power on things that are out of your control, that won't matter in the long run. Deal with it and move on to something positive for you. And then looking in the mirror, learn to forgive yourself. We all go through those times. We have to cut ourselves a break. When negative thoughts come creeping into your mind, they do, right? They will. They will for the rest of our lives. They will try to beat you up. But when you recognize them, again, using that journal, stop them in their tracks and counteract them with something positive. Making a list in your journal of those positive thoughts. You want to keep sharing them through. What are those positive affirmations? Talking to yourself and defending yourself the way that you would do that for a friend. If you saw somebody attacking your friend, what would you do? Defend yourself that same way. If you start spiraling, interrupt that negativity. Don't allow it to happen anymore, and say, hey, stop that. You know that all that negativity isn't worth it. It isn't helping anyone here. I can't afford to put myself down right now because I've got too much going for me. Give yourself that pep talk. We've all been there before, right? We know that whatever that thought is not a healthy behavior. So start giving yourself that pep talk. Go into the mirror, shut the door. It's going to feel really weird the first time that you do it. It's going to sound silly, but it's helpful. Sometimes all you need to do is to hear the right words out of your own mouth is even better. So I have some resources if you want to follow up with me on that. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me. I hope that you're able to walk away with some insight on how your mind works, as well as some tactics on how to overcome those self-sabotaging habits and behaviors that have a way of presenting themselves every once in a while and keeping you from your why, keeping you from your goals. And I'm going to leave you with this final thought. I want you to make a conscious effort to be resilient, to move forward with your life, your plans, your goals, no matter what hurdles come your way. Think of me and my journey to Florida. We all have obstacles. We all have things that get in the way. Now, you can go around them, you can go over them, you can go under them. I heard a story of an ant yesterday. They will not relent. They will keep working to get to their goal, even if they have to go through it. You, my friends, are strong. You are intelligent. You are capable of overcoming that negative thought pattern. Whatever those words are, they don't have to stay there. They don't belong to you. Your mind has created them, and you can undo it, and you can rewrite your story to have a beautiful journal of positive stories for you. So if you have any further questions, please email me. Let's chat some more. I know that our time is over here, but your work has just begun. I invite you to change your world. Step into that place again. 5 weeks, $50. Bring a friend, and then grow into the next opportunity right after that. You can use it as a business building tool to build relationships with. It's a free course right after this one. 6 weeks of transformation, roundtable discussions on values. So both of these are super awesome courses, and I invite you to jump in and join me at them. So thank you so much for being here and growing your confidence this week and today. And I hope to hear from you throughout the month, as well as that you have a fantastic rest of your day, getting rid of all of those self-sabotaging behaviors. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.